be reading stage directions. The play will be 2 acts with 1 intermission. Concessions will be available. Act 1, Scene 1. We are in the Atlanta, Georgia parlor of Susie Penelope Mayhew. The room is tastefully decorated circa early 1930s. Divan, 2 end chairs, end tables, wall paintings, drink hay. Susie is reclining on the couch, phone in hand. She is very animated.
Now, as I recollect, Pansy says, Rhett. What? Yes, dear, that's right, Pansy. I know, Evelyn, I know no self-respected lady of the South would butterfly among her beaux with a name like Pansy, but that's a name. Now, don't interrupt me. As I was saying, and Pansy says, don't, I shall faint. And he replies, I want you to faint. This is what you were meant for. None of the fools you've ever known have kissed you like this, have they? Your Charles or your Frank or your stupid Ashley. Isn't that delicious? Why, can you imagine having a man like that in your life? So self-assured, so confident. As far as I'm concerned, there are only 2 men on the planet like Peggy's Mr. Butler, Clark Gable and Ernest Hemingway. Pansy? Oh my, yes, very headstrong, self-absorbed, selfish, manipulative. Why, if I didn't know better, I would guess Peggy was writing about you, Evelyn. Oh, now don't get your bustle in a twist. I was only kidding. Oh, I gotta run, Evelyn. Pops is home, I think. Now, remember, you are not to breathe a word of this to anyone. Not a word, understood? Okay, bye.
Susie starts to get up just as Carter emerges from the kitchen. In addition to the other items, he has a meat cleaver, a meat tenderizer mallet, and 3 butcher knives in his hands.
Hi, Pops. Are we moving? I mean, Pops, what in the name of molasses and sugar cane are you doing?
Where's your mother, Plum?
She's at a bridge club, Pops, but you didn't answer me. Why are you running about collecting all this stuff?
I thought I'd better remove anything that could be used as a murder weapon against me.
A murder weapon? Who's gonna murder you?
Your mother, Plum. Your mother. Oh, Plum. She isn't going to be happy, not one bit.
Oh, Pops, why would Mother even entertain the thought of murdering you? You're not a Yankee.
Worse.
Worse? Now, Pops, what could be worse than being a Yankee? Why, being a Yankee is... Wait a minute. Pops, don't tell me you're not a Republican.
Goodness, no, honey. Nothing that bad.
Oh, thank God, I probably would have murdered you myself. Now, you drop all this stuff and come over to the divan with me.
Carter drops everything in a clatter, and Susie leads him to the divan where they both sit.
Now, darling, what in the world is going on? Why are you so bent on the thought that Mother would do you in?
Oh, where's your mother?
You already asked me that, Pops. She's at...
Oh, yes, bridge. That's right. Now you have to promise me on your sainted grandmother's memory you will not repeat a word of what I'm going to tell you to anyone.
Pops, not breathe a word of what? What is going on? Oh, this sounds like something very serious. I may not be equipped to handle it. Okay. Now I'm equipped.
Oh, Plum, I'm so sorry, so sorry. I've lost a great deal of money.
Lost? Lost? Like, you mean you dropped it somewhere, left it on some counter? What are you talking about?
No, honey. It's not on some counter or sidewalk. What I mean is someone else has our money.
Who, Pops?
My bookie.
Oh, Pops, you had me worried there for a minute. I think the Georgia heat has muddled your mind, Pops. And how could it be lost if it's in the hands of your bookkeeper?
Not my bookkeeper, Plum. My bookie. The man I place bets with.
Who?
You see, when there's a football game or a baseball game or a horse race, you take a certain amount of money and contact the middleman, the one we call a bookie. You tell him how much you want to bet on which event, which team, a boxer or a horse race you're betting to win. If your bet wins, the bookie pays you. But if your bet doesn't win...
I'm sorry, Pops, you lost me. You mean to say you put money on a sports team to win, and if they win, you get paid, but if they lose, you lose your money?
Exactly.
Well, Pops, you've always been rather conservative with your spending, so maybe you don't have so much to worry. So what are we talking about, $100, $200?
I'd give anything to have $200 or $2,000. Plum, I gave him $12,000.
$12,000. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
$12,000?
Yes, Plum. $12,000
And you mean to tell me you took $12,000 and bet it on...
No. I didn't bet it. I invested it.
Invested it. You just explained to me you bet it on somebody to win something.
Well, not exactly, Plum.
Oh, Pops, I may need a whole bottle of scotch before this conversation is over. You've lost me.
All right. Let me explain. Right after I join you.
He walks to the drink caddy, pours himself a drink, gulps it down, pours himself another, walks back to the one to sit.
You see, I've known this man for some time now, my bookie, and I trust and value his opinion. Well, we were talking one day, and he said he knew of ways I could make a whole lot more money without the risk of some sporting event. I was all ears by then. He told me he had invested a great deal in a few surefire inventions that were going to capture the nation's attention by storm. And by the time it was all said and done, well, we'd both be millionaires.
Inventions. You invested in inventions on the recommendation of your bookie, a man who makes money when people lose?
Well, he was so sure. He showed me paperwork, had me talk to some other investors, his cousin, his brother-in-law. I was so sure this was going to set us up for life.
Well, apparently it set someone up for life. Now, tell me, what inventions were going to take the nation by storm?
The hat, radio, and the oscillator.
The what and the what?
A radio attached to a hat so you can listen to music wherever you are, and a device that locked out all of the sounds when you wanted to concentrate.
Oh, Pops.
I was so certain. Plum. Here, let me show you.
Don't tell me. Your radio hat.
Exactly, yes. The concept was ingenious. No longer would folks be confined to their homes to listen to their favorite radio programs. You know, The Shadow, Fibber McGee, Gasoline Alley. Now they could listen wherever they were simply by putting on a hat. There was only one problem.
No.
Yes. As it turned out, the wearer either had to be on the top floor of a very tall building or climb the Himalayas to get good reception. But from what I hear, they're working on improving.
Uh-huh. And this other one, what you call it? The isolator?
Carter holds up a helmet with a tube extending from the mouth area. The helmet fits over the person's head and rests on their shoulders.
Oh, Martha.
Carter speaks to Susie, but she can't hear him. She is
Yeah, hippies are really good.
What did you say? I can't hear you.
I said, this is great for people who want to concentrate without getting a bit distracted.
Oh my God, Pops. Really?
Well, only a small problem or two. He didn't tell me it was all made of wood, so it's not all that light sitting on your shoulders. And in all that dark, most people started to get sleepy and couldn't concentrate on what they were doing anyway. And I came to find out it fills with carbon dioxide. Not to mention it can cause claustrophobia.
You don't have to worry about Mother, Pops. After this demonstration, I'll do it.
No, sugar plum, let's not do anything hasty.
I don't know whether to kill you or commit you, Pops.
Come in, definitely come in. Keep that barrier between me and your mother.
I assume all the money came from the bookstore account?
Oh, my dear, no. Not business, personal. It was our savings for your mother's one cherished dream, a trip abroad to the continent, like the moneyed families used to do around the turn of the century. It's all she's ever talked about, and we're already booked on the Elizabeth for next year. And it wasn't even our money. That was the money her father had left her specifically for the trip. Oh, Plum, how could I have been so dumb? My bookie was so sure we could double our money in a matter of weeks or just a few months.
Susie refills his scotch.
See that? That just arrived yesterday. A steamer truck. She ordered it, Plum. That's how excited she is. But she has nothing to fill it with.
Carter stops, gets up, crosses to the chest, opens a drawer, and pulls out a tape measure. He crosses to the trunk and measures it.
61 inches.
61 inches? Okay, so?
Carter crosses to Susie, hands her the tape.
Measure me.
What?
Measure me, Plum.
She does.
66 inches.
Oh, are you sure? Oh, my. Well, she'd only have to cut off my feet and double up my knees.
Oh, stop it, Pops. She's not gonna stuff you in the trunk. At least not until she wraps it up in a sheet or something. You know how she is about cleanliness.
It will break her heart. Absolutely break her heart if we don't go, Plum. And then, when she comes to her senses, she'll definitely want a meat cleaver.
If Mother finds out, you won't need a bookie to tell you that's a safe bet. Go lay down, Pops. I know this has to have your mind all tied up in knots. Let me think on it for a while. There just has to be a way out of this, short of killing or committing you.
Carter gets up, kisses Susie on the forehead, starts for the bedroom. He turns, crosses to the drinks caddy, grabs the bottle of scotch.
Really, Pops?
Now, Plum, don't worry your pretty little head. You know me. I only drink on 2 occasions. When I'm thirsty and when I'm not.
End scene. Sylvia, the clerk, stands behind the counter, restocking 2 books from a display behind her. The bell at the door jingles. It opens and Susie Mayhew enters.
Why, good morning, Miss Susie. How are you this fine morning?
Oh, hi, Syl. Pop's been in yet?
No, expecting about 11.
Tell me, Sil, how have sales been?
Well, you'll be able to tell by the amount of dust you stir up. Go ahead, try. See that display over there? Local author Wilford McIntosh, My Dixie Harp.
Sylvia hands her a dust rag. Susie crosses to the book display and takes a swipe. Dust flies off the shelf.
Need I say more? If I can be honest, Susie, your father's idea to promote and feature strictly regional authors and regional literature was, well, excuse the pun, a novel idea in the beginning. But from what I understand, readers today want national writers and books on the New York Times bestseller list. They want Murder on the Orient Express and Tender as the Night or Goodbye, Mr. Chips. They want contemporary literature, not stories about goobers and pecan and lost causes.
I know, Sylvia. I know. I've been trying to talk Pops into expanding beyond Georgia's and Mississippi's borders. Well, tell Pops I stopped by.
Will do.
Susie begins to exit when something on the store's community board catches her eye. She walks over. It's a flyer. She unpins it and walks towards Sylvia, reading aloud.
Calling all authors. Do you have a manuscript in progress? Are you a new, emerging voice in Southern literature? The Mulberry Foundation of Chicago is seeking new and talented Southern authors. The winner of our Emergence contest will receive a $5,000 prize and an invitation to meet with the esteemed novelist Ernest Hemingway, author of the just-released The Sun Also Rises at our annual Writers' Symposium. Don't delay. Submit the first 200 pages and a detailed outline if available. We could choose you. When did this come in?
Well, just yesterday, Susie. Why?
Be idea enough. Put the closed sign on the door, then come and sit. I have an idea.
Closed. But it's not even noon. And what if we should get busy? You know, what if we actually get a customer?
Sylvia crosses to the door, flips the sign, and comes back to sit by Susie.
Now, you are so right about what people want to read. At least I think so. And if we are to survive, we just have to jump into expanding our inventory yesterday. Now, this flyer gave me an idea. What if we could lure Mr. He-Man himself, Ernest Hemingway, to our little store for a book signing? What do you think would happen to sales then?
Ernest Hemingway. Here at the book market? Why, I can't even imagine sales then because we've never had anything like it. But you'd have to hire on some part-time help because I'll be right in that line waiting for him to sign his book. My book, your book, any book.
I know how you feel.
But if I may ask, how in the world do you, an eligible, attractive, somewhat sensual Southern belle, intend to lure said gentleman here down to the red clay of Georgia? And the flyer talks about writers. And if I remember correctly, the last thing you wrote of any note was back in the 5th grade. Remember? You had to write it on the blackboard. I will try not to kiss Johnny Truman ever again. That was not good for a day and a half. Then you were back at the blackboard writing, I will try not to kiss Billy Mifflin ever again. Didn't your hand ever get tired?
My dear, when one is pursuing that totally elusive concept we call love, one must push themselves beyond their limits. I did. Until Pops enrolled me in St. Agatha's School for Girls. A second time. Anyway, it's not my writing that will be submitted, my dear. I know.
Not Peggy Marsh. But I hear she won't let a soul, not even that dear husband of hers, John Marsh, read a word, a punctuation mark, or a thought she's committed to paper. She guards those words as if she were a mama grizzly bear.
Did I say Peggy Marsh? Did I? Did you hear me say Peggy Marsh? Well, all right, Peggy Marsh. But do not breathe a word of this to anyone. Do you hear? What I want you to do is start ordering 20 copies of the top 10 bestsellers on the New York Times list. Prepare space, draw up some display signs. We're going to bring Ernest here, and then Pops will follow. We have to make it happen.
You mean you, me, and Peggy, right?
Well, yes. She may be teachable, but she may not, but we have to try.
Susie collects her things, kisses Sylvia on the cheek, reaches the door, turns the close sign back to open.
We are open for business.
Susie exits and Sylvia tidies up the front counter. After a minute, the bell jingles and the door opens. A customer enters the store. He's an older man dressed all in black, beard, mustache, hat pulled low. He looks around cautiously, approaches the counter.
Welcome to the bookmark, sir. Atlanta's premier showcase of literature. How may I help you?
I hope you can. I've been all over this city trying to find a copy of My Dixie Heart by that wonderful author, Wilford Samovar. Well, there isn't one to be had anywhere, and he's such a good writer. The opening pages capture the reader so well.
Well, your search is over, sir. Right over there. Take as many as you want. I don't know why there's so many left, and according to you, no one else has even a dust jacket. I personally haven't read it.
Haven't read it? Not read it, my dear. You do yourself a bibliophilic injustice. Why, there is such a rush of emotion and depth, such detail in Samovar's words. He captures the very essence of a man who would be a rebel. And yes, that is a curiosity why so many are left. I can't understand it.
The bell jingles, the door opens, and Susie reappears. She sees the customer.
Oh, I'm sorry, am I interrupting? Well, hello, Wilford. Playing the anonymous customer again? You know, you could just call and we tell you about sales. Of course, the reviewer who wrote, "My Dixie heart turns my Dixie stomach," didn't help. Sylvia, please tell Pops this. Everything will be fine and he won't be committed. For at least 18 months. What? Oh, he'll know. Bye-bye, Wilford. You really do need to get a better disguise.
End scene. Cramped apartment made up of a parlor with attached kitchenette and bedroom. Peggy sits at a table holding a typewriter. Her left foot, in a cast, is propped up on a small stool near the table. She wears a simple house dress, no makeup, her hair cut short. She is surrounded by manila envelopes and stacks of papers and books, mostly on the floor. Peggy's busy typing when the doorbell rings.
John, dear, can you answer that, please? I'm a bit preoccupied.
A few seconds go by, but no response. The bell sounds again.
John, the door.
John Marsh enters the bedroom. He is a clean-cut man with glasses, dressed in slacks, a sports coat, and shirt.
As diligently as you have been working, sweetheart, I am certain you are doing your illustrious ancestors proud. I am sure the venerated Old South has been mightily resurrected within those pages. The flavor, the ambiance, the character. And if I am any judge of your talent, my sweet, this saga...
John looks around the desk floor at the books, papers, and manila envelopes scattered about.
Obviously an extended saga will capture more than my attention. Why, the chemistry between what did you say the names were?
Rhett and Pansy.
Yes, Rhett and who?
Pansy O'Hara.
Really, Peggy? Pansy? A Southern belle? The fixation of young bucks across 5 counties? Pansy? Oh, well, where was I? Oh, yes. I am certain the chemistry between them will be
Steamy, fresh, and tasty, like
Brussels sprouts. Yes, like Brussels sprouts.
John, do you have to associate everything with food?
The doorbell rings again.
Oh, and the most enjoyable ones, my dear. Come swoon at my feet. Lay thyself prostrate, and let me escort you on a journey of Epicurean delights to...
The door, John, dear. Please. please hustle your Brussels to the door and see who it is.
John crosses to the door, opens it. A Western Union delivery boy stands outside the door. The boy glances at the envelope in his hand.
Is there a Miss Margaret Mitchell here?
Well, I'm not sure, son. I think she might be a terror at the moment.
Huh?
Oh, never mind. Yeah, she's here.
The boy hands John the telegram. John tips him and closes the door.
It's a telegram for you. I can't remember. Did we eat the last of the Brussels sprout?
John. Oh, damn.
For heaven's sake, Peggy Marsh. I surmised you were somewhat self-sufficient, but it appears I was wrong. What was the name of the convalescent home your family used?
John Marsh, if I get my hands on you.
Now that sounds more appealing than even Brussels sprouts.
Be a dear and read it, John. I must finish this paragraph.
Miss Margaret Mitchell, 31 Peachtree Street, Atlanta. Dear Miss Mitchell, it is my extreme pleasure to inform you that your recent submission...
My what?
Your recent submission.
But I didn't.
Your recent submission has been selected as one of the 3 finalists in our search for promising new Southern authors. Congratulations. Details to follow. Sincerely, Evelyn Kerfis, Executive Director, the Marbury and Juliet Kensington Foundation.
The what? And what damn submission? I've never submitted anything to anyone. Why, you're the only person that has been anyways near this, and you and, oh, Lord.
You let the Lord read this too?
More like Satan. That damn Susie Penelope Mayhew, she's the devil in these details. John Marsh, oh my. I can't believe that Southern twit would...
May I remind you, Missy, that little Southern twit is still your best friend.
Huh. Not for long if I have anything to say about it. How could she? How could she let anyone see this? I wish she were here right now.
Well, perhaps, and this is just a stab in the dark, mind you, that she believes, as I do, that it's worth sharing. That it just has to be a damn good story, and you're a damn good storyteller.
Oh, story schmory. John, you know, it's something to do to pass the time on my ankle heels. And it's rotten, and I just want to be done with it. I haven't even had a chance to rewrite it or edit or anything. Well, it doesn't even have a proper ending.
What? Why, I know for a fact that you wrote the last chapter first. You did tell me that.
Yes, you're right. But it's weak, and I'm not happy with it.
The phone rings.
It just doesn't sound right. Something about Rhett and his attitude. Just not sure.
The phone rings again.
But I do know the ending has to be strong. Something strong and memorable.
Hello? Oh, hello, you little southern Susie, dear. We were just talking about you. Yes. Peggy was just saying how much she wishes you were here. Well, I don't know. She's not in the best of humor. What? What's that? Yes. I know you can always make her laugh, Susie, and help ease the stress. Good luck this time.
Susie Penelope Mayhew, how could you? Oh, by the very nerve.
On the other side of the stage, we see Susie lit by a single spotlight holding her phone. John sits down to read his paper.
Why, land sakes alive, Peggy dear, what in honeysuckle and magnolias has your bustle in such a twist?
What? Oh, you know damn well what. The Kensington Foundation, the search for promising American authors.
Oh, yes, that. Now, Peggy, I can explain. I was going to tell you about that, and, you know.
And tell me what? That you purloined my manuscript, pages I never entrusted to your care and your eyes only, and then you purloined them and sent them to God knows where, the Kensington Foundation.
Now, sugar, the Kensington Foundation is only just the most preeminent foundation for the arts in the country. Why, to be recognized by them
is something that isn't going to happen. That's what it is. And I don't give a damn if they are the only arts foundation in the country. You had no right to...
But Peggy, dear, after hearing about some of what you had written, I just couldn't let this opportunity pass you by. Well, I just couldn't.
What opportunity?
The opportunity to be discovered, dear, to be known, to be recognized.
To be recognized. Huh. What is my name?
What?
You heard me. What's my name?
Oh, you silly ninny. Why, Peggy, of course. Peggy Marsh.
John, what's my name?
Peggy Marsh.
Oh, did you hear that? You know my name, and John knows my name. That's all the recognition I want or need.
Oh, Peggy, we don't count. It's America that really counts. But all those millions of young women yearning to be pursued the way Rhett pursues Pansy, falling asleep at night, dreaming of a masculine hunk like Ernest, Rhett, wrapping his big, strong arms around her. Why, I remember a sentence you wrote that speaks to that very passion. Something vile, electric, leaped from him to her at the touch of his warm mouth. Something that caressed her whole body thrillingly. Why, the very thought of that man just melts my molasses, Peggy dear.
Susie Penelope Mayhew, I was not born to be everyone's aphrodisiac. If they want all that, they should write their own novels. I am simply writing to occupy my time on my ankle heels. And then...
Look, Peggy dear, I'll stop by tomorrow and explain everything. And if, when you're done, you don't see my point of view, well, I personally will contact the Kensington Foundation and withdraw your submission.
Well, if it weren't so late in the day, I'd have you do it right now, you twit. And then I'd strangle you with your own bloomers. All right, I'll be here waiting. And you better come prepared to make that call.
Peggy slams down the phone. The lights fade on Susie.
You know, dear, you really need to develop a more aggressive approach with people. I'm not sure you've learned how to get your point across. We'll have to work on that.
Peggy tosses a pillow at John, and as the lights go out, end scene. The scene opens on the next day, early afternoon, the Marsh apartment. Peggy Marsh is back at her typewriter. She's wearing a Confederate field cap. A cavalry saber leans against the desk. As she types, every so often she grabs a sword, brandishes, mouths silent dialogue, goes back to the typewriter. The doorbell rings.
Hold on a minute.
Peggy sits up, takes hold of the saber, uses it to support herself as she rises, hobbles to the left of the door, sword upraised.
Come
and a messenger enters.
Oh my. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were someone else. I am so sorry.
I'm not mistaken, ma'am. General Sherman died about 42 years ago.
Again, I'm so sorry.
Are you Margaret Mitchell?
That depends on who wants to know.
Look, lady, I'm just the messenger. But I was born and bred in Mississippi, so I understand your feelings. I know some of you Georgians have a tough time with the outcome of the war and everything, but...
Yes, I'm Margaret Mitchell.
Whew! Good. I have a special delivery for you.
Where's it from?
The Marbury and Juliet...
Say no more. I refuse to accept it.
Huh?
Just at that moment, Susie Mayhew enters from a door off the kitchenette behind Peggy. Peggy turns, her eyes light up, and she begins hobbling, stumbling towards Susie with the sword raised.
Why, Peggy Marsh, what in the world are you dressed up for? Confederate Memorial Day is months away, and...
Stop right there. You miscreant, you poor Lorna, you stain on Southern womanhood.
Oh, fiddle-dee-dee, Peggy. You gave up acting some time ago, precisely right after high school, when the Bugle Reviewer wrote, as I recollect, and Margaret Mitchell's Titania, Queen of the Fairies in our production of Midsummer's Night Dream of Friday last, perhaps should have been called Titanic, as Miss Mitchell's queen sank moments after her first lines on stage.
Excuse me, ma'am, but I have other deliveries.
Oh, all right. Come on, Susie. Give this young man a tip since this is all you're doing.
Thank you, ma'am. I know a good psychiatrist over in Dumont.
Well, yes, that won't be necessary for the moment. But keep us in mind. No. Keep her in mind. Thank you.
You know, that sword was meant for you. Why, the nerve, Susie, the very nerve.
Why, Peggy, it's for your own good. Don't you see that? When is the love story all time for every woman pining for just a smidgen of the passion and romance shared by Rhett and Pansy? Do you have any idea how many women out there across the country are wastelands of unrequited passion who yearn for the electricity between these two? Their husbands come home from work, toss their lunch pails on the counter, grab the newspaper, eat dinner, listen to Fibber McGee or Gasoline Alley, then go to bed and snore their way till morning. And if they can't have it, I'll bet you they certainly want to read about two who do. Oh, it's a damn good story, Miss Peggy Marsh, and needs to be shared. And when you walk up and receive the Pulitzer Prize someday, well, perhaps, just perhaps, you'll say a kind word or two about your humble, poor, faceless friend who thought nothing of herself on the day she started you on this literary journey.
Susan Penelope Mayhew, poor you are not, and you should be ashamed to use the word humble to describe yourself. Conniving would be more like it. But I won't agree. I simply won't agree. Well, I was just about to refuse the envelope from this preeminent arts foundation you hold in such high esteem.
Well, what was in it?
Oh, I have no idea. I haven't read it.
Peggy, you're not going to believe this. Why, I'm just beside myself with excitement and then, oh, Peggy, it says here that not only were you selected by the Foundation's committee as a finalist for emerging new writers, but you have been invited to attend a once-in-a-lifetime Writers Symposium in Chicago with featured speakers. Are you ready for this? Ernest Hemingway. And you will have the opportunity to have your manuscript to date reviewed at the same time. Oh, Peggy, can you believe it? I mean, oh my gosh, sugar! Ernest Hemingway in the flesh!
That's right, just the way you like your man, in the flesh.
Did you hear me, Peggy? Ernest Hemingway and little old you, little Peggy Marsh from Atlanta.
I heard you. Ernest Hemingway and not me.
Why, Peggy Marsh, what intonation do you mean? Why you have to go? You just have to go.
And just why do I have to go?
Why this is all, I mean, your chance to meet him.
Him?
Why, Ernest, you ninny, Ernest Hemingway.
You mean so you can meet Ernest Hemingway. And if I know you, you'll likely meet him between the sheets.
Why, Peggy Marsh! I have never been so insulted in all my life. Why, the very thought. My mama and papa did not raise some no-account poor white trash who would just willy-nilly give herself to any Tom, Dick, or Harry who came along.
Well, my little paradigm of Southern virtue. If my memory serves me, Tom was 3 months ago after the Williams garden party, and Dick was last Christmas after the December ball. And didn't you say that you just met a young man named Harry? Oh, give it time, Susie. Give it time.
Hammond, dear. Not Harry. Hammond.
Hammond, Harry. They all start with H. As does Harlot.
One insult after another. Why I even bother, I have no idea.
You bother because his name is Ernest Hemingway. And if I have anything to say about it, that's all it will ever be. Just a name. So, put a muzzle on those little overreacting hormones of yours, dear Susie, before you let your true refinement show.
Well, I will admit, the man does have a certain musky cachet to him. The bulls and the deep sea fishing and the hunting and the drinking. Oh, but Peggy, this is not about me or him. It's about you, dear. About an opportunity to associate with one of the great talents in American literature today. A man who just might, mind you, be of great assistance on this road to literary acclaim. And, well, if he needs a little encouragement to encourage you, well...
And let me encourage you right now. Make that call!
End scene. Peggy is sitting at the corner desk. She begins typing, but stops abruptly at the creaking sound of footsteps.
John? Is that you? John? You startled me.
A figure appears from the shadows, dressed in antebellum clothing and looking suspiciously
Is
like
someone
Clark,
there?
looking suspiciously like Clark Gable.
Rhett Butler, at your service, Miss Marsh.
Oh, whom did you say?
Why, Rhett Butler of the Butlers of Charleston.
You sure are, and I'm the Queen of Sheba, of the Shebas of Africa.
If you say so.
Well, I know you're not real. I know you're just a wisp of imagination. It's all just a flight of fancy. But I need a drink anyway.
If I may be so bold, I could use a little bourbon myself if you have any.
Why, certainly, Rhett, or whomever you are. Help yourself.
You are too kind.
I must say, your late night presence was a bit startling. Most people, they knock before they're welcomed in, fictional or otherwise. Cheers.
Well, as you know, I didn't have to use the door, Mrs. Marsh. I came in through your mind, that artful, imaginative, busy mind of yours that, given that, I consider myself as real as any other character of your creation. But you seem to think to the contrary. Well then, Mrs. Marsh, I am only as real as you want me to be.
Well, you certainly look the part.
I am, well, let's see now, how was it you described me? Oh yes. He stood alone, hands shoved deep in his pockets, the red lips under those close-clipped black mustache curled down, and there was a glint of amused contempt in his black eyes. Contempt as if he listened to the braggings of children. Is that about right?
Stand a little straighter. Tilt your head. Ah, that's perfect. Exactly how I created you.
Well then, at least we can agree on that. Now granted, I am elusive to the touch, but not to the eye. Not at this moment. And if that's the case, and you agree, then I'll humbly stand before you and ask you, no. As a southern gentleman who holds you in the highest regard, I beseech you, please, please do not have my heart and attention captured by any young belle who goes by such a name as Pansy of all things.
And what's wrong with Pansy?
Mrs. Marsh, really? Pansy O'Hara? Why, I would think those of the old South themselves would rise up and protest at the very sound of the two names stitched together. Why, Gerald O'Hara himself would do nothing of the kind. Not exactly the name I would associate with such a femme fatale as created by yourself.
Well, it's just a working name. Nothing's for certain.
Perhaps a suggestion, if I may. Perhaps another flower, say a rose or a daisy. No, definitely not a daisy.
Tulip O'Hara? Pussy Willow O'Hara?
Perhaps calla lily O'Hara? Or philodendron?
Oh, philodendron is worse than pansy. Azalea O'Hara.
Too many syllables. Perhaps we should think color. Yes, color. Maybe lavender O'Hara.
Lavender. Well, why not try azure or coral? Coral O'Hara. Or maybe orchid.
Yes, of course. Might as well call it vermilion. Wait. I have it. Scarlett. Scarlett O'Hara. Katie Scarlett O'Hara. Now tell me, doesn't that roll so much easier off the tongue? A certain lilt, if I do say so myself. And it implies a passion, a temperament. Why, it would do Gerald O'Hara himself proud. But then I'm not the writer.
Scarlett. Scarlett. Huh. Well, it certainly does fit her temperament. A good possibility, Mr. Butler. Certainly worth considering.
Well, the Butlers of Charleston thank you, Mrs. Marsh, from the bottoms of their Confederate and literary hearts.
Now that we have that settled,
Well, if I may, just one other small request.
yes?
Is there any chance within that sweet Georgian heart of yours to make Scarlett a woman of flaxen hair? Hair the color of the morning sun. It seems to me I would be partial to blondes. After all, hair is.
Madam? Oh, look at Madam and a blonde Irish girl. Oh, not on your literary life.
Yes, I suppose you are right. Just a thought.
Let me take care of your thoughts. Now, to what do I owe the honor of this auspicious visit at such a late hour?
Your guilt, I would suspect.
My guilt?
Yes, your guilt. After all, don't you think you were a little hard on Susie?
Hard? Why, Susie Penelope Mayhew, she doesn't know the meaning of hard. Why, she pilfered papers of mine, and no one, not even John, has seen, and then she sent them to...
Yes, I know, because I think she believes in you. As a writer, she was only trying to satisfy...
Yes, I know what she was trying to satisfy. Her libido. That's what. And she only did it hoping that she might entice some Ernest Hemingway into her libido.
Well, that may be true, my dear, but she is your best friend and only has your best interest at heart. She believes in you. Your husband John believes in you. You think John has some ulterior motive?
Oh, no, bless his heart. Unless, of course, there was more money to buy more food.
And so I ask you, why can't you believe in you?
Because, Mr. Butler, all my life, at least until I met John, there has never been any substance just to my being, just frivolity, shallowness. I was born with a ball gown in one hand and a Confederate flag in the other. Quintessential Southern belle, destined to follow my ancestors down Flirtation Walk. Parties, boys, clothes, sum total. Even my writing. All hack stuff. Feature mush for a Sunday magazine. Sure, I can bump words up against each other and make sense, but let's just say, for argument's sake, that this book of mine was to catch the public's attention. What then? Gawkers, interviews, flashbulbs, everyone wanting a piece of me. I am a very private person, Mr. Butler. I value my privacy. John and I have quite a nice life here in the dump. I want to remain a private person, and so joining in Susie's little escapade would only jeopardize that. And to that I say no thank you. And besides, is a love story set against the backdrop of the Civil War and Reconstruction going to lift the burdens of mankind? Will it affect change? I think not, Mr. Butler. It's just a story.
A great love story. That's what it is, a love story to stand the test of time. And tell me, what woman wouldn't want to be loved the way that I love Scarlett? And a love story set against the great panoramic backdrop of the American Civil War with its passions and drama? My God, Mrs. Marsh, the formula I would suspect can't miss.
Not a chance. Thank God it is late, or you would have me rewriting the entire novel.
Only so far as it benefits the, how did you put it, the roguish cad of Charleston. But we digress. As far as your writing is concerned, Susie and your husband believe in you and what you have created. You have to believe just as strongly that it can, and likely will, capture the hearts and minds of millions of readers thirsting for the human dynamic that flows across your pages. And besides, would you have me, Rhett Butler, languish within your pages for posterity? Doesn't seem fair to all those women now if I think you can't get it.
Really, Captain Butler? Being the strong, resilient man that you are, would you really embrace her after being scorned so many times? I'm not so sure.
Ah, but there's the rub, Mrs. Marsh. You can hear it from my own lips. I would welcome her, embrace her, love her. Let's say for the moment I didn't. Well, that would leave her alone, and your readers would naturally beg to know what happened. And the pressure to write a sequel would be thunderous. All your fans clamoring for closure, and you know how much work you put into this one and how you said you hated it. And then the thought of doing it all over again, well, that has to weigh very heavily on that artful mind of yours. I think that in itself would determine the ending. Do you really want to go through all this again? I suspect not. So anything else would...
Well, you may have a point, Mr. Butler, but we have digressed again. Back to Susie. You know, by going to Chicago, she wants me to bare my literary soul to the likes of Hemingway. And sir, that is a frightening thought that I cannot entertain. I certainly know how Daniel felt in the lion's den. Right. He is a literary giant, and I am...
While you are simply the purveyor of a saga that I suspect will far outsell any one of his works. Can't you see that, Mrs. Marsh? Why, our story, Rhett, Ashley, Melanie, and certainly Scarlett, needs to be told. It needs to breathe passion and determination and urgency and envy. We are products of your imagination, the amalgam of other people you have known and who have acted upon this stage of life and left an imprint in your mind. This is our time, Mrs. Marsh. Our time to show readers how two people can transcend all adversity and well, you just have to care about us.
Well, in deference to your chivalry and honor, sir, I will take the advice under advisement, but there are no promises.
That's all I can ask, Mrs. Marsh. You are too kind. By the way, she never did make that phone call, did she?
By the time she was on the phone, the offices were closed. But there's always tomorrow.
No guarantees, as you say. So perhaps you'll reconsider. Now, speaking of reconsidering, on page 524,
Good
you know where
night, Rhett.
Rhett exits. Peggy turns out the light. End scene. Parlor of Susie's home. Susie sits at a writing desk talking on the phone.
And she simply refuses to even entertain the notion of it. Can you imagine that? The opportunity of a lifetime, and Peggy Marsh simply brushes it aside with not so much as a by your leave. What am I going to do? I just have to persuade her to go to Chicago. Why, this may be...
The doorbell rings.
I'm sorry, Evan, but company calls. I'll ring you later. Kisses. Why, Hammond, Parsons! What a surprise. Now, what, may I ask, brings you to my front door at this time of day?
Why, your beauty, Miss Susie, for starters. And then there's your intel. Yes, well, your beauty, to be sure.
Oh, how do you do go on? Well, do come in. What a delight.
The delight is all mine, I can assure you, Miss Susie. Just as these flowers reflect my feelings, so too let my soul entwine with thee and climb the wall of love to heaven.
Why, bless your little heart, Hammond. Aren't you the poetic one?
Well, to be honest, Miss Susie, I can't take full credit for these expressions of endearment. They are words I spoke while I trod the boards in Memphis, where I was a darling of the theater set. Well, for a little while anyway.
Oh, you're an actor.
Aren't we all, dearest? Did not Shakespeare once proclaim us all stage hands in this great big theater we call life, and each stage hand has a job to do? No, wait a minute. He said life takes its cues from the stage hands who are playing at life. Well, something like that.
I believe what he actually wrote was that all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. They have the exits and entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. His acts being 7 ages.
Yes, exactly what I was saying. Anyway, I was among the noble few until tragedy ambushed me.
I'm sorry.
'Tis a sad tale, but one I can share with your delicate southern ears. You see, I was playing Hamlet with the Jonesboro players, and the young lady playing Ophelia, well, she was an understudy. Very talented, but with a propensity for nervousness. Of course, I discovered too late the extent of her propensity. On our opening night in Act 3, Scene 1, I am discoursing the Dane's lines, "Ha, ha, are you honest?" When all of a sudden, she begins to hiccup. Can you believe that? My Lord, are you fair? What means your lordship? That if you be honest and fair, your honesty should admit no discourse to your beauty. Could my beauty, Lord, have better commerce than with honesty? The audience burst out laughing. Your one man yelled out, "She needs water by the gods." And then another offers, "Hey, Hammy, scare her quickly. Take off your tights." I tried to maintain my composure and continue. Can you imagine my embarrassment? My utter frustration in this most important of scenes, and she's hiccuping? Well, we stumbled through to the end, but I blistered her well and proper after. I did not mean to bring her to tears, but so be it. Later, she seemed to be all right, but I did not want to take any chances. Took her aside and advised her before another night passed to consume a fair amount of water before the next show. That, I had heard, would preclude any such similar demonstration.
And did she?
She assured me she would, and I took her for her word. So the next night I began the speech again, and lo and behold, as I spoke, there was no involuntary interruptions. And yet, as I spoke, I noticed she began fidgeting, which of course, drew the audience's attention. And the more I spoke, the more she would squirm and shift and fidget. And the look she was giving me, her face all scrunched up, biting her lip. Well, I knew in an instant she had to find a place to relieve herself. She apparently took my advice too much to heart. I found out later she'd been drinking water all day. Oh, my is right. But that's not the happen. Someone yelled out, "My God, man, wrap it up. Can't you see she's got to pee?" Another patron joined in, "Hey, Ophelia, the bathroom's all this way." Well, again, the audience is laughing at one of the most critical of scenes. I am trying to maintain my princely composure, and she's stomping her feet, grabbing her arms. Well, finally, I could take no more. And before the line's time, I simply shouted out, "Get thee to a nunnery, and then find the facilities quickly." Well, you can imagine the audience about rolling on the floor as she ran on, and I excited not to know what I could do to continue. But true to the actor's credo, the show must go on, and I proceeded to the end. And after the curtain, the director called me aside and very quietly handed me my walking papers with the words, "Get thee to another theater company." He felt I had discredited the bard with my impromptu ad-lib and made his directorial debut a laughingstock, not to mention Ophelia's embarrassment. I tried to interject that my undoing was no fault of my own, but Ophelia's. But he would hear none of it. Only later did I learn that Ophelia, the understudy, was his girlfriend. And he had to pay for her trauma psychiatrist. Thus I stand before you, an actor without an act.
Dear Hammond, sugar, I'm so sorry for your theatrical misfortune. I can only imagine what must have been going through your mind.
My thoughts at the time would scald your southern hot genitalia, Miss Susie. So let's just say, as the bard penned, everything, forsooth, turned upright at the end.
You mean all's well that ends well.
Didn't I just say that, dear? Well, had I not left the theater company, I would not have come to Atlanta. Had I not come to Atlanta, well, there would be definitely one less rose in my garden.
Oh, how you do go on, Hammond. Well, I do declare, you aren't just the sweetest thing. Oh, if only Peggy had some of your sensitivity.
Peggy?
My friend, Peggy Marsh. Why, She has written this sumptuous love story set amid the Civil War, and well, unbeknownst to her, I thought it was so captivating, I entered a portion of it in a writing contest in Chicago, and well, she's a finalist in a national contest, and she could win, and part of that is the chance to meet Ernest Hemingway, the novelist, but she refuses to go. She's put her foot down and being as stubborn as one of my granddaddy's old mules. No amount of talking on my part can get her to change her mind. She absolutely refuses to go.
Why?
Because she's pretty much a private person, and the novel, she says, is just something she wrote to fill her time while the ankle healed. She even calls it rotten and wants to be done with it, but oh, Hammond, if you could read her words, embrace her characters, why, you would know it needs to be shared with the world, with all those women starving for the affection that, oh, never mind, you wouldn't understand.
Please, do not shut the door on my face. I need my looks.
What? Yes, certainly. Well, anyway, I'll never get to meet, we'll never get the chance to meet Ernest Hemingway, and the world will likely be denied the story of a century.
That good, is it?
Oh my, yes. It's warm in parts and engaging in others and tempestuous in others. Why, it makes me so mad. And that's it. Of course. It just might work. If she's mad enough.
You're right. I don't understand.
Silly, you don't have to understand. You just have to follow my lead. Now, I have an idea about how we may be able to entice her to Chicago. Now come closer. Here's my plan. And don't you breathe a word of this to anyone.
End scene.
You just make the cutest couple.
Cute is entirely her domain, Miss Susie. I am more, shall we say, tolerable.
Oh, John Sugar, you're much too modest. Why, when Peggy married you, I was green as a shamrock with envy, I do declare, but so distinguished, so bold. Why, you could have been the model for Mr. Rhett, but...
Susie Mayhew, you promised. Talk about anything but that, as long as it isn't about that.
But Peggy... All right, I do declare, Peggy Marsh, as long as I live, I will never understand your aversion to your own creation, but have it your way. Speaking of creations, you must simply meet my latest, well, in the making, that is, Hammond Parsons. Now, isn't that name just full of southern charm? He is delightful, just delightful.
Delightful in which way, may I ask?
Oh, Peggy Marsh, you should be ashamed of yourself. Why, delightful in only the most accepted social way, of course. Oh, and there he is. Hammond, over here, sugar.
Hammond Parson enters, dressed in dinner jacket and bow tie, holding a glass of champagne, crosses to greet the threesome.
Hammond, sugar, I would like you to meet two of the very best people in Atlanta, John and Peggy Marsh. John works for the power company, and Peggy is, well, Peggy is, that's all.
Mr. Marsh, a pleasure. Mrs. Marsh, a pleasure beyond words.
I believe that is befitting Miss Susie Hammond and me. But still a pleasure to meet you, the man who has captured the attention of such a fine Southern belle in Susie Penelope Mayhew. Why, before you came along, there were...
Not a single beau who could make my heart flutter the way it does when I'm with you, sugar.
Well, we know that something was fluttering anyway. So, Hammond, are you from Atlanta?
Oh, my, no, Peggy. Hammond is from Jonesboro. You know, the Parsons family in Jonesboro? Why, his granddaddy was second in command to Mr. Nathan Bedford Forrest. Oh, can't you see the resemblance?
Bedford Forrest? Well, sir, that is a lineage to be proud of.
Oh, I have no doubts, Mrs. Marsh. Our family is very... Oh, I'm so sorry, Miss Susie, but I must brask away for a moment, momentarily to make a phone call.
What, dearest Hammond? Can't it wait?
I'm afraid not, Miss Susie. It's an acting opportunity. A role tailor-made for moi, I believe.
Right, then, by all means, sugar. Pops is inside. He'll show you where the telephone is.
Well, if you excuse me, folks, I'll try to be back just as soon as possible. I am eager to hear about your family tree, Mrs. Marsh.
Well, Miss Susie Penelope Mayhew, it certainly seems that you have landed a catfish instead of a guppy this time.
Yes, isn't he simply divine? Why, his family owns just about half of Jonesboro, and Hammond stands to inherit.
So then I assume he is not, shall we say, gainfully employed?
John Marsh. He is gainfully employed in winning a heart, if you must know, and...
And we all know your heart's in the right place.
Oh, my, it is. Why...
Well, if that's the case, Susie Penelope Mayhew, there's no longer a need to cavort, cajole, and finagle to connive about the likes of your esteemed Ernest Hemingway.
Oh, sadly, I feel I must admire him from afar. I heard opportunity knocking, mind you, for you, Peggy Marsh. I opened the door, and lo and behold, there was no one there. A dream unfulfilled, I must admit.
Well, I know your withdrawal will be difficult, so I'll buy you his books and you can still comfort yourself with him between the covers. Of the books, I mean.
Honeysuckle and magnolias, Peggy Marsh, I will be perfectly fine. I suppose it was just a flight of fancy that turned my head.
Like Tom and Dick.
Oh, this one is different. He has that something special. Perhaps it's the way he kisses my hand or attends to my needs. Not unlike Rhett.
Susie Penelope Mayhew.
Right, very well.
Evelyn Bernard enters the patio, accompanied by a tall, spectacled, dark-haired man in his mid-30s. He is dressed in a white dinner jacket, black pants, black bow tie. The man is really Susie's Hammond in costume. Evelyn spies Peggy and Susie and crosses with the man in tow.
Good evening, ladies. Quite the soiree, Susie.
Eb, darling, so glad you could come. Just something I threw together at the last minute. Now, who in the world is this handsome accessory to your wardrobe?
Permit me to introduce my companion for the evening and my cousin, George Stengel Sherman. Meet John and Peggy Marsh.
George shakes hands with John and holds up Peggy's hand with a courteous gesture.
And Susie Penelope Mayhew, our token divorcee at tonight's proceedings.
Enchantée, Miss Mayhew.
George is visiting from New York City, and you'll never guess, Peggy, George is a writer too.
Oh, you don't say.
Oh yes, he's written for a few newspapers and magazines. He has written some short stories, and his first novel, The Tortured Soul, is to be published soon.
How very wonderful, Mr. Sherman. I'm so happy for you. I wish I could be as happy about your name.
Oh, yes, that. I probably shouldn't broadcast it here in the thick of Georgian resentment, or better yet, that we are related.
Definitely not. If I were you, I would use Stingle or Smith or even Mud. But not Sherman. Anything but Sherman. You know, there's some folks around here that don't just sleep between the sheets. They wear them.
Oh, yes. Interesting monogram, KKK. So, Evie has told me you, too, have a novel in progress. Miss Marsh, a novel.
John, be a dear and escort me to the bar. Come along, Evie. Let's leave these two to their prattle about writing.
Susie puts her arm through John's and all three cross to the bar. Sherman gestures towards a nearby table where he and Peggy both sit.
As I was saying, Miss Marsh, Evie says that you are working on some tripe about love.
Oh, I'm not sure I would call it tribe.
Well, then, what would you call it? Because as I understand it, even you call your own work rotten. Certainly not literature.
I'm sorry?
Literature, dear. Writing. Pure writing. Writing that explores the vast bankrupt wasteland of the soul and peels it back for others to see the wounds, the scars, the bleeding. That existentialist meandering through the human experience to discover truth, the ultimate quest. Is it not? Truth of ourselves, our beliefs, our perceptions. Disillusionment, despair, collapse of our ideals. That is what the true writer's soul cries out for.
And is love not part of that equation?
I think not. At least as regards your equation. From what I understand, you have a headstrong Irish girl who's in love with a local boy. Then a machismo stranger comes along, falls for her, but no amount of attention on his part can capture her attention, which remains fixated on the local boy. Well, of course, the local boy is in love with someone else. So you spend some 1,000 pages plotting and slogging through this pursuit of emotion, and no one really emerges triumphant. Is that pretty much it?
Yes, but I think you missed the point.
I beg to differ, Miss Marsh. How can that dribble compare to the likes of a Hawthorne or Fitzgerald or Hemingway, for that matter? Men who use their talents to explore, not rehash the human existence. Why, from my readings and experience, not much of anything you call literature has come out of the South in 100 years. Most of today's true purveyors of classic literature are men of northern sensibility. Men who can embrace and understand the human condition far more wholly and completely than a woman extolling the lifestyle of the old South. Come now, Miss Marsh. I am sorry to be so blunt, but when art is concerned, one cannot walk the fine line of propriety.
You mean to stand there and tell me, you pompous ass, that there has been no worthwhile literature emerged from the South in a generation?
Pretty much. Oh, there might be a flash storm here and there, but for the most part, drivel. Pure drivel. You might be interested to know that I intend to discuss that very topic next month in Chicago.
Chicago?
Yes, at the Marbury and Juliet Kensington Foundation's annual Writers' Symposium. Because of my talent, I have been invited to participate with a panel of other writers, including, I might add, Ernest Hemingway, to address literature and its impact on the arts. My topic shall be Southern Literature, Another War Lost.
Let me understand this. You are appearing at the so-called symposium, and in the presence of Hemingway and others, intend to disparage all Southern literature as drivel?
Well, all might be a bit of an overstatement. The organizers of the symposium have only allotted me to 90 minutes.
At that moment, Evie, Susie, and John return, laughing.
So, did you two enjoy comparing notes on the fine craft of writing for fun and profit?
I'm not sure of the enjoyment, but we did have a healthy exchange of ideas and perceptions. We, I think, have a much better understanding of what constitutes fine literature. Right, Mrs. Marsh? Well, be that as it may, I will certainly enjoy the remainder of my visit among your magnolias and moonlight. So quaint and so trite.
Come along, George. There's a few other folks that I'd like to meet.
George and Evelyn exit.
Susie, Penelope, Mayhew, you have had your prayers answered. Go on and prepare a table in the presence of mine enemies. And Ernest Hemingway. We are going to Chicago.
End scene. At the Drake Hotel in Chicago. The bartender is wiping down the bar. Ernest Hemingway looks about, walks in the bar, and sits.
Yes, sir. May I help you?
God, I hope so. Bourbon, straight up.
Yes, sir.
Hemingway pulls some pages from the briefcase, begins to read. He laughs, tosses one page aside, and starts on another. The bartender pours his bourbon.
Thanks.
Peggy Marsh and Susie Mayhew appear in the doorway. They hesitate before entering.
God, Peggy? There he is at the bar. Oh my God, Peggy. I can't believe we're this close to him.
For your good, Susie. That is about as close as you should get. You may be inviting disaster.
Why, Phil Dee, Peggy Marshall. Why, I merely want to meet the man and compliment him on that book he wrote. What's it called? Something about the sun. Oh yes, the sun also rises. Yes, that's it. That's all.
Well, I don't believe you for a moment. But if it will stop your incessant chattering about Ernest this and Ernest that, well then we better get on with it.
The two ladies approach Hemingway. He pays them no attention. He is laughing again, tossing another paper aside at the bar.
Excuse me, Mr. Hemingway.
Yes.
We're very sorry to bother you, but my friend and I are both great admirers of your writing, and we just wanted to stop by and tell you we look forward to whatever's coming next.
Why, thank you, Miss.
Peggy, Mrs. Peggy Marsh, and this is Miss Penelope Mayhew.
Pleasure, Mrs. Marsh. Miss Mayhew.
Is that a new work?
Oh, no. It's a so-called novel in progress from someone named Margaret. Margaret Mitchell. I was just...
What? Well, she's just. Well, she's just quite the writer. So I've been told.
I'm sorry, but I seem to have developed a splitting headache. If you'll excuse me.
If you'll excuse her. I don't have a headache. I'm sorry to hear that, Mrs. Marsh. A little rest, a couple of aspirin, and you'll feel so much better.
Well, I'm not sure, but I'll try. Coming, Susie.
No, not just yet, Mrs. Marsh, but I'll check on you by and by.
Suit yourself.
Yes, now, where were we? Oh, yes, well, I suppose we could say we have been properly introduced, so I must admit I feel so much more at ease. It's always better to have a go-between, if at all possible, when meeting someone new, someone of the opposite sex, that is. Much like a chaperone, wouldn't you say? I'm just one of the many Mayhews of Atlanta, but perhaps the most eligible. By the way, you may have heard of my cousin. He's a writer too. Writes advertising copy for Dillman and Scott Advertising. You know, they handle the Mama Jane stool softener and ephemeral elixir account. Well, my cousin, Butler Thomas Mayhew, created the slogan the company used about, maybe 3 advertising campaigns ago. Oh, I'm sure you've heard it. It was all the rage. It played all over the radio. Let's see, it goes something like, if your stools turn hard and rough, watch Mama Jenkins turn rough to fluff.
Gotcha. That what it is?
Oh, yes. And then there was the one about the dentist, but no. Listen to me prattling on about me and the Mayhews of Atlanta when I want to know about you. Why, honeysuckle and magnolias, it is such an honor to meet you. As Peggy said, I'm a devoted fan of your writing. You come highly recommended by the butcher, the baker.
Candlestick maker.
Candlestick maker, oh heavens no, don't even know one. But your first book, the sun comes up too.
My apologies, Miss Mayhew. Don't know what came over me. Tickle in the throat, maybe. Very sorry indeed. So, you're a mistress of the arts.
Upon my word, aren't you forward, Mr. Hammond? Do you mind if I call you Ernest?
Please do, Susan.
Well, Ernest, I hadn't really entertained that notion, but as I was saying, The Sun Comes Up too was so captivating, engaging. I could barely pull myself away from it to do anything else. And when Daisy Buchanan...
Daisy Buchanan. I'm afraid you have your authors mixed up. Daisy's from the questionable talents of Scott Fitzgerald. Great Gatsby.
Oh, why, yes. How could I be so silly? The Great Gatsby, of course. Well, quite a sensation, I understand, when it was published.
More like a flash in the pan, if you ask me. I don't think he'll ever be the equal to it again. Do you know his wife is loony?
You don't say.
Oh, yeah. He squirreled her away in some sanatorium and goes there to visit, but she's a lost cause. There's not quite a dozen eggs in the old carton. Thank God, Southern gentility and softness still has the legs of you to promote what womanhood is all about.
Why, Ernest? How you go on? Why, I'm just a nobody in the grand scheme of things. A Southern belle without a cavalier for the moment. I fear I may wind up unwanted, cast aside, adrift. Someone's afterthought.
Now, Susie. Why, a woman with your love of the arts, your sweetness, your passion for life, why, any man in his right mind wouldn't be in his right mind if he let you slip through his leg and his hand.
Oh, thank you, Ernest. You don't know how much that means coming from someone of your prominence. I can only hope there's some truth to it. Oh, I certainly have a whole passel of beaux flocking about like angry doves, but that special one, that one who could turn my head with a simple glance, someone like Rhett, Butler.
Rhett Butler. Now, where did you come up with that name? I was just reading. Wait a minute. What was that?
Oh my, Ernest, look at the time. I've completely forgotten my manners. I must excuse myself and let you tend to your work. It was such a pleasure meeting you, and I do hope our paths crossed again.
No, but
Bye, sugar. Oh, by the way, I'm in 328.
another bourbon.
Just then, Hemingway spies Susie's gloves she has conveniently left at the table. He picks one up, fingers it, smiles.
Sun comes up too.
He finishes his drink, picks up the gloves and his briefcase, exits in the same direction as Susie and scene.
Yes, operator. Atlanta, Cherry, 61539. Thank you.
The door opens without warning and in breezes Susie Mayhew, all aglow in a new dress and a big smile.
Well, please ring me when a line is free. Well, Susie. Ernest must have been quite the host.
Fiddle-dee-dee, Peggy Marsh. Ernest Hemingway has nothing to do with it. I'm so happy for you. So let me see it.
See what?
The check you twit, the foundation twit check.
Can't. Already spent.
Spent $5,000. What? You just received it less than an hour ago.
I know.
Well,
What?
where is it? I just like to feel it for a moment, if that's not too much to ask.
I told you you can't. Only Ernest can.
Honest? What tarnation, Peggy? What in ever do you mean?
Not 20 minutes ago, I happened upon your Mr. Ernest Hemingway in the hallway, and I signed the check over to him under one condition.
You what? One condition? I'm afraid to ask.
Well, since you asked, I'll tell you. I signed it over to him on the one condition that he leave Chicago immediately. Before the writer's pen. It was for your own good, dear. Now that southern virtue you so highly prize will remain intact. Thanks to your good friend, Peggy Marsh.
You did what? You paid him to leave? To leave me? Why? I'm sure realizing the consequences, he refused.
Quite the contrary, my dear. You've heard of the starving writer? Well, apparently, your Mr. Hemingway was famished.
Peggy, how could you? Well, I needed to talk to him about... I'm sorry, Pops. I know you would have helped. I just know it. Now.
Oh, put a cork on your bottle of tears, Susie. I was just kidding.
What? Honest?
Honest. Yeah, feel all you want.
Becky removes the check from her pocket, hands it to Susie. There is a knock at the door.
Come in.
The door opens and a hotel bellboy enters, holding a manila envelope.
Is there a Margaret Mitchell or a Peggy Marsh here?
I swear, Peggy, I did not send your novel anywhere else. I swear.
Yes, that's me. Both of me.
Special delivery.
Thank you. It's from your lover.
Hammond? No, why?
Oh, no, silly, your new lover.
Oh, my. Well, What does it say?
The lights go dark on Peggy's hotel room, freezing Peggy and Susie. The lights come up. Stage right, Ernest Hemingway. He is seated at his hotel room table, writing on a yellow legal pad.
Dear Miss Marsh, as a rule, 1,000 plus page novels serve only 3 purposes. 1, doorstops. 2, a paperweight or 3 dumbbells. Seldom in the history of American language has length equated with value. See Faulkner. However, your first novel, Gone with the Wind, may just be the exception to that rule. Its expected length does not diminish from its perceived value, which, of course, is yet to be determined, but I would suspect any love story that has an inherent appeal to a select few who live vicariously through the drops of blood we writers donate to the written page. It's not Tolstoy or Flaubert or even Fitzgerald at his best, but it's a darn good read with an overabundance of passion, emotion, and well-developed characters. Though I only read the first 200 pages as submitted, plus the last chapter, which I understand you wrote first, I read enough to perhaps offer a few salient insights and assessments, which you may accept or discard. Most are noted on the enclosed partial manuscript.
Lights shift to the ladies. Peggy continues reading the letter.
I think the ending needs work. It has no force at all, no finality, no exclamation point. Rhett's reaction to Scarlett's pleas must be something the reader will never forget and still be true to the character, as changed as it is. Now about this Ashley character.
Seriously, Miss Marsh, do you truly intend to allow him to muddy the pages of an otherwise engaging read? Why, it stretches credibility that Scarlett could love such a milquetoast when she has the opportunity to embrace the manliness of Captain Butler. Ashley, as you portray him, is much too refined, too much of an artist and a philosopher to fit Scarlett's temperament. Her fire would consume him in an instant. Not so Captain Butler. His hand could tame her free spirit, I'm sure. Why, even Scarlett's own father calls this Ashley queer, which I'm sure meant the same thing then as it does now. And I can only assume he will manifest his complete lack of character after the war, where he most likely pines for a world gone by that will never be again. Christ, what a jellyfish. He needs brass to stride into that world, grab it by the balls and declare, "You're mine," as Scarlett does. Instead, like Charles Hamilton and Frank Kennedy, Ashley appears to me to represent the emasculated South,
which may or may not rise from the ashes of its once flowering youth, and in that regard, much too weak for the legs of Scarlett. But for God's sake, Miss Marsh, haul out the scalpel and do some major surgery on this wimp while you still can. If I may make a few suggestions, play down the Civil War backdrop as much as you can. Kill off Wilkes during the war and something more heroic than measles. Commit Melanie due to her inconsolable, unending grief over Ashley's death. You know, it's for your own good sort of thing. Have Rhett's fate in the war listed as unknown, which leaves a huge question mark. Minimize as much as possible Scarlett's interaction with Mammy, Prissy, and Pope to tone down the inherent racism. In the meantime, introduce a new male protagonist. A dashing, masculine, northern carpetbagger who at first Scarlett cannot abide, but over time comes to love and adore. Bring Rhett back to the scene of the crime and have the two of them dueling, psychologically and physically for Scarlett's affections. Develop an element where she must choose and then end the book. They'll be knocking down your door for a sequel, if they're out there in the first place.
Ashley, a milksop? Why, the nerve.
Well, regardless.
I'll give him a piece of my mind for a piece of mine.
Now, Susie, there's no need.
Does my hair look all right?
Susie exits, end scene. Scene opens in Peggy Marsh's hotel room moments later. She is busily packing an open suitcase. A woman speaks from the shadows.
Why, I do declare, Miss Peggy, I do believe you've let that old windbag bluster you into submission. running away from your problems isn't what a real Southerner would do.
Huh? Who's there?
A woman shouldn't spend too much time on a decision where men are concerned. Those issues should be fairly discernible. Now, take my feelings for Ashley Wilkes.
Scarlett, is that you?
At that moment, Scarlett O'Hara emerges. She unfolds herself and steps in full view, wearing an off-the-shoulder summer dress.
Katie Scarlett O'Hara, his own, if you don't mind. And now, do you know any other self-respecting woman who would be paying you a call at this hour?
Well, I can think of one, but then again, my name's not Ernest.
You mean Miss Susan Penelope Mayhew? Yes, I suppose you're right. But I assure you she's simply awaiting the promise of another tomorrow, as I am.
What do you mean?
Isn't it obvious, my dear? The ending of our story. You know, where I finally admit to Rhett that I do love him, have loved him, will love him. I was just too blinded by my obsession with Ashley to see it.
Oh, yes. I should have known you would chime in on that.
And why not? But before we discuss that, there's something else I need to, as you say, chime in on. What's this about rendering Ashley as something other than what he is in our story? That Mr. Hemingway called him, what, a milksop? What does he know of the true character of the man? His integrity, his morals, his fidelity to family. And certainly just because he's the one who appreciates art and philosophy and poetry does not make him any less of a man.
Well, you have to understand that Mr. Hemingway has a clearly defined perspective on what constitutes a man. A rugged bearing, a heroic posture, demeanor that would relegate any woman to his wants, his needs.
And he wants you to change him, to conform to what he thinks Ashley should be, to recreate him in his own image. Why, I won't stand for it. I just won't stand for it. I love the Ashley that is there, not the Ashley that might be there. And I don't care if others think less of him because he's not as flamboyant or doesn't carry himself the way, say, a Rhett does. You created him, and you must have had a good reason for putting all those pieces into that hole.
Well, there is some truth in Mr. Hemingway's analysis. Ashley, along with Charles Hamilton and Frank Kennedy, represented an emasculated Southern male after the war. A total deprecation of masculinity.
Now, hold on just a minute. Ashley may be many things, but unmasculine he isn't. He is refined and cultured. And just because he longs for a South that once was, doesn't make him any less of a man. I understand he feels useless in a world that is, not was. He just doesn't fit. And that, Mrs. Marsh, must remain a polar opposite to the overmanly Mr. Butler, wouldn't you say? Doesn't it make our tale so much more interesting? I believe Rhett has already made an excellent case for finally, after almost 1,000 pages of trials and tribulations and heartaches and sorrows, that some amount of happiness be afforded the two of us. It's not like we haven't earned it.
Do you really think that Mr. Butler would embrace you after rejecting and spurning and turning a cold shoulder to all his advances from Tara to Atlanta and back?
Why, of course. I am the one he's desired through nearly 1,000 pages, and he shall have me. Besides, remember what Rhett told you. Deny us this union, and you open yourself up for millions of readers besieging you to know what happens. Well, you know what that means. A whole new book. And you know how you dreaded all the work that went into this one. If he should walk out on me, why, it's only natural for the woman to demand closure. What woman doesn't want closure? When Charles Hamilton died of measles, that was closure. When Frank Kennedy was killed in that Klan raid, that was closure. When Ashley married Melanie, that was closure of a sort. Would you not do the same for the two of us? Or would we be left to dangle indefinitely in the future of your mind, never knowing our fate? How dare you, Mrs. Marsh? Why, it's not fair. It just isn't so.
Truth, Scarlett, 'tis not fair. And the thought of a whole nother book frightens me. Why, I just couldn't. I couldn't do all that again.
Well, of course you couldn't. Well, my, I am so glad we were able to have this little chat. I was so worried about you.
You were worried about me. Katie, Scarlett O'Hara, when did you ever worry about anybody but yourself?
Well, right now, people do change, except for Ashley, mind you. Why, think of the inner turmoil, the indecisiveness of regret you would have to suffer. Now you can wrap everything up and tie it with a cute little scarlet ribbon and be on your way to your own happiness with Mr. Marsh.
You do know I wrote the last chapter first. I knew exactly what Rhett would do, but I'm just not so sure what he might say. That's the sticking point.
You mean all this time you've known how we would emerge from this novel of yours, and you could not find a modicum of decency, southern decency, mind you, to share it with what you might call an interested party? Now, Miss Peggy Marsh, please do tell.
And spoil the surprise? Why, not on your bustle would I do that, Katie Scarlett O'Hara. You'll just have to buy the book like everyone else.
Fiddle-dee-dee. I won't trouble you for that answer, Miss Marsh. Not one more word from me. You see, I happen to know someone.
You, Miss Susie Mayhew, out of it.
Well, the hours is late, and I must have my sleep for when my Rhett returns. Pleasant dreams, Mrs. Marsh, and please, don't you dare touch a hair on sweet Ashley's head.
Lights out, end scene. In the hallway of the Palmer house outside Susie's room. The door opens and Ernest Hemingway emerges, putting on his hat. At that moment, Peggy Marsh, in search of Susie, starts to enter at the edge of the stage, stopping when she sees Hemingway. She takes a step back into the shadows, watching and waiting. Susie appears and grabs for his elbow. He turns.
But you can't, Nina. You just can't. Why, I almost gave myself to you and you just walk out on me?
Something like that.
But I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to fall asleep. 'Twas the wine, the culprit here. I had no idea after 3 glasses.
Well, that, my dear, is your misfortune.
Oh, well, why, Ernest? Why? You said.
We both said a lot of things at the moment that meant something. And now this is another moment, and well, they just don't seem to matter.
I don't matter. I don't matter? Why, you bastard. You lousy bastard. No man has ever told me I don't matter. I do matter. I have to matter.
And it is my misfortune to be the first.
Susie slaps him across the face.
Oh, Ernest. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry, Miss Mayhew. I likely deserve that.
I hope none of this negates our agreement.
Our agreement?
About the book signing. You agreed to come to Atlanta.
Oh, yes, now I remember. Something about helping your father out of a jam. How about wise men say only fools rush in and... Sorry to say, Susie, I am no fool. There's something here.
But you said you'd be glad to, schedule permitting and my body awaiting. You said, and then perhaps we could escape together.
Oh my God, woman. You seem to forget I'm a married man. And escape? To Africa, my next destination? Now that would be a most awkward fit, to say the least. Like trying to squeeze a 240-pound woman into a size 8 dress. You, a Southern belle, dropped into a dusty, overheated elephant camp in the bush? I just don't see it. But I may have my opium. And to what end, my dear, to what end? I have my writing to do. I cannot be interrupted, and you, my dear, would be an interruption.
But, Ernest, if you leave me now, after all I've been through for this moment, what will become of Pops, the store? What will become of me?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Oh, Sue, Peggy, oh, Peggy. made such a fool of myself. He doesn't care about helping me, not a whit, and I'll never be able to live with myself. Oh, so ashamed, Peggy. Oh. You must promise you will not breathe a word of this to a soul. Do you hear? Not a soul.
I promise. By the way, here's a telegram from your father.
Oh, please, tell me what it says. I'm in no condition.
Dear Plum, no worries now. One last invention paid off. Called something like Scotland tape. First check was $5,000. Know anyone who needs a suit of armor? See you soon. Love, Pops.
Oh, Pops. Good for you. Good for you.
No worries. Suit of armor. Is your father all right?
Oh, he's more than all right now, Peggy. Oh, Peggy. I feel like such an ass. Will you ever forgive me?
Forgive you for what? Nearly humiliating me in front of the nation's most celebrated authors, for purloining my property to use for your own gain, for subjecting me to the asinine, twisted intellect of George Sherman. Oh, what's to forgive? And by the way, what's with this, oh, I never knew the 3 glasses would. You know exactly. Huh. Nothing at all. We all know that 6 is your magic number. It appears Mr. Hemingway is not the only one around here writing fiction.
Like George Sherman. That was my beau, Hammond, impersonating a northern rider with an attitude. You see, I just had to get you to come to Chicago as much as for yourself as for me, but you were dead set against it. And then the idea dawned on me. If he could disparage Southern writing and Southerners as a whole just enough, well, nothing ever fails to get your nails sharpened faster than someone bashing the Old South.
Yeah. But why was it so important for you to get here, besides Ernest Hemingway?
Peggy, I'm sorry for putting you through all this. Pops came to me one day and said he had lost $12,000 in investments through somewhat suspicious means, and that was my mother's money set aside for the grand tour. She had her heart set on it, and well, if he couldn't produce, it was...
So you wanted me to give the money, win the money, and give it to you?
My molasses and magnolias, no, you ninny. I wanted to meet Ernest Hemingway, the author, not the lion tamer. I wanted him to come to Atlanta, have a special book signing, and that in itself might kick book sales in the behind and help us raise that missing $12,000 with all the new customers we'll have now that we're going to be stocking national titles.
Since when?
Just within the past 6 months.
Well, I'll tell you what. If my book should make any difference, you and your pops will be well supplied. That should help some.
Oh, really, Peggy? You're such an angel. Oh, Peggy, what hurts the most is that I have never been rejected. Never. If word should get out that I, Susie Penelope Mayhew, the belle of everyone's ball, had been dumped by anyone, let alone Ernest Hemingway, I don't know what I'd do. What will I do? Where will I go?
Naturally. You go home with me to Atlanta. Yes, Atlanta is where we belong.
But the symposium, Peggy?
I think I've had just about all the writing advice I could stomach for one lifetime. And besides, thanks to Mr. Windbag Hemingway just now, I have a book to finish. We'll think about the rest tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow.
After all, tomorrow is another day.
And